All right, guys, so let me go ahead and get this started. I'll have to jump off to manually click to the next slide here. But we're going to start with, all right, the paleo diet, guys. The paleo diet. Let me hop on here. Let's get to the next one. All right, the paleo diet. So let's talk about the background of what the paleo diet is. So paleo, one, stands for the Paleolithic era. Okay? So essentially, what does that mean? That refers to the Stone Age, right? That's why you see this little caveman looking guy. Because the paleo diet is also often referred to as the caveman diet, right? So the Stone Age, as most people are aware, was a primitive time in human history where simple stone tools were used, right? It's the first time when man, realized that they started using items to do things. Whether it was some type of object to use as a weapon, to defend themselves against animals, to hunt, starting using tools to mash things together, right? So it was largely defined, right, by the hunting and gathering of foods, right? The caveman didn't have the basic things of, let me go out to a grocery store to go get the items that I need. There was no Amazon.com to get items delivered to my house, right? You had to go out and hunt for the food that you wanted, right? Literally hunting down the animal. And then you had to go out, and if you wanted to gather food, meaning go out and get berries off a tree, or maybe pick certain leaves or some types of roots, right? So that was the whole, that's what we really mean by hunting and gathering. And so some of that kind of really ties into, right, that what does that involve? Large movements, right? Because sometimes, you didn't stay in one place. You would go where you were able to hunt and gather. So let's say as herds moved around, you also too were moving around because that was your food supply, right? If it started getting cold in an area and you needed to go maybe migrate somewhere else where it was going to start getting warmer so you could still get access to things, that's where you're going around, right? So when you're just out and about, you're always on the go, right? So you're highly active, right? Strenuous work during the day, similar back to like farming, right? You're just working all day, huge, large energy expenditure going on, right? You had things like regular seasonal food shortages. You know how now we have access pretty much to, let's say, fruit, for example. That really is like the prime example. You have access to fruit all year round. All kinds of fruit too. Bananas, apples, blueberries, raspberries, oranges, right? Before, there were these stores, right, where we could get food imported from all over the world. Prior to all of that, they were seasonal. You could only get oranges around the time of year, and if you happen to be in the region where oranges were grown, right? All depending on what area you lived in, you may not have had access to certain foods, right? And with even in that region, you did not have access to those foods all year round. Okay, so that's kind of what we mean by regular seasonal food shortages. And unplanned starvation meaning there were probably periods, right, where you weren't able to go out and hunt and gather. Let's say during the, right, like during the cold season, you're probably not able to hunt and gather as much because, you know, creatures were in hibernation, right, or they had migrated somewhere warmer, right? So there were definitely going to be seasons, periods of time where food was not in abundance. I mean, and that's very similar to what you see now in the animal world. I mean, you hear that all the time anytime you're watching a documentary around that. So that's really the error that we're talking about here, right? Let me flip here to the next slide. I really need to get like a mouse clicker that I can like click to go to the next slide here. So what did, and we talked about some of this, so what did the caveman or woman eat, right? We have this little cartoon picture here. I'm tired of hunting and gathering too, but nobody's invented grocery stores yet, right? So that's what, you know, again, this was just what they had to solely rely on. I mean, imagine if you had to solely rely on going out to go hunt and gather your own food. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't even know where to begin. I know I wouldn't, right? If I had to go out into the world, I mean, other than what pops in my mind is a deer, but do I even know how to like do things? Let's say even if I managed to find a deer, and even if I managed to actually kill a deer, I would have no idea how to actually prepare to do whatever to actually even be able to eat it, right? I mean, these are the skills that we just, you know, do not have. So getting back to the kind of foods they ate, so they hunted and gathered, right? Fish, okay, fishing, right? Meat. So, and again, you have to imagine here, this is like out in the wild, so wild fish, wild meat, whether it was, you know, buffalo, deer, any nuts that they could find, right? And we're talking like, you know, we're talking nuts that are like up in the tree, you know, yank down, you know, an acorn, crack it open, you're like eating a nut, right? Berries, whatever seasonal berries, you know, they could find, seeds, right? And then root vegetables, you know. I mean, root vegetables would be things like turnips, celery, right? Any type of vegetable that grows in the ground, right? In the modern, so obviously with the paleo diet, it's not being recommended that you should go out and go hunt and kill your own meat. No one's telling you to go slaughter your own cow, or to go hunt your own fish. I mean, and in fact, right, there's actually a lot of laws in place where you can't just do that on a regular basis. You can't just go out and say, oh, well, I was trying to go hunt my own meat, my own protein for dinner tonight. No, you know what I mean? So there's definitely a modern version of the paleo diet that is to try to, as best as it can, to mimic what a caveman or cave woman would have been eating during that time, right? So really what we're talking about here, the modern paleo diet really focuses on eliminating the consumption of highly processed foods that you typically find in your typical Western diet, right? And so I thought it was important, and I'm going to jump here I'm going to jump here to the next slide. I thought it was important that I cover, well, what is the Western diet? Maybe people aren't familiar with that term and that lifestyle, right? But so the Western diet, which is really widely adopted by most Americans in the in the United States, it's centered around really a high intake of high fat red meats. You got an intake of highly processed foods, and I'll get into what processed foods are, but I mean processed food is essentially, you take one item and it has to go through some type of, chemical process in order to be turned into something else, right? I.e. candy, right? High intake of refined sugary foods, right? Like candy, soda, Oreos, which are one of my personal favorite, right? That's an example of a processed food. High intake of grains, rice, bread, right? Oatmeal. I mean, all of those look like rice, bread, and oatmeal, and you're going to see this later. Those are all examples of processed food, right? Now, that's a more healthier processed food, right, than say, candy. But still, it's a processed food. It's not something that is found in a natural state, if you will. And then the Western diet, low on the other end. Generally, it's a low intake of fruits, of fresh vegetables, right? And generally, our lifestyle, we have low levels of physical activity, and we have low movement at work, right? And you see this, and I kind of give you a little picture here. I mean, a lot of this should be very familiar. You got your cheeseburger, your cookies, ketchup, Snickers, M&Ms, your gummies, your fried chicken wings, your blueberry muffin, your soda, your Cinnabon, right? And I know that, and it's crazy to think, maybe a lot of people who are watching this right now or listening in who are into fitness and health, and you may be like, well, look, like, that's not my lifestyle, that's not my diet. But you have to imagine, I mean, and especially in America, this is the primary diet. I mean, you go out into the world, and I'm sure you can attest to this. I mean, more often than not, this is the majority. Do I think like, thank God we're in an era where we're trending to be healthier. It's hipper, it's cooler to be to want to be healthy and want to eat healthy. Yeah. But in large part, this is still what's going on here, right? So you can already see the huge discrepancy in the difference between a paleo type of diet, right, with that hunter-gatherer mindset kind of thing, only eating foods that you could hunt and gather, versus what we've adopted now, recently over the past, few hundred years maybe, right? They definitely weren't able to find ketchup back in the day. I love ketchup, by the way. So processed food, right, just to re-hammer on that, in case you just don't know what I mean by processed food, right? So again, as I described, processed food is any food item that has a series of mechanical or chemical operations performed on it to change or preserve it, right? And you got your things, crackers, cookies, gums, breakfast cereals. That's right, your Trix is a processed food, right? Bread, condiments, oatmeal, brown rice, right? So I wanted you to see the wide range there, because a lot of people might be saying, well, hey, you eat, I eat oatmeal, even steel cut oatmeal. I eat brown rice. Like, I thought that was good for you. Why is that a processed food? And so again, at the end of the day, processed food can have a variety of ranges in terms of better for you than, you know what I mean? Like obviously like eating brown rice, which I can't remember, there's like 3 primary things in the grain of rice. I know with white rice, they strip all 3 out. With brown rice, they only strip 1 out, so you're getting 2 of the like micronutrients out of that. So you're getting some good nutritional value. But rice A, so for example, so brown rice is a whole lot, it's still processed, but that obviously is so much better, like 1,000 times better than you going and eating some crackers. More highly processed, right? And this is in no particular order, but as I'm kind of sitting here looking at it, seminar, hey, what's going on? If you're just tuning in, we're going over the paleo diet. This is kind of that step in where I wanted to, you know, drop some knowledge and educate you guys prior to working out. So processed food, again, a food item that has had a series of mechanical or chemical operations performed onto it to change or preserve it, right? So also remember when we say preserve it, what does that mean? So preserve it is, we're talking about sodium, artificial preservatives. You know, there's a reason why even your, you know, Dave's Killer Bread, I love Dave's Killer Bread, a great bread. I definitely recommend you get it if you're going to go get yourself some bread, right? But there is a reason why Dave's Killer Bread, any bread, right, that's nicely cut up for you, can last on the shelves, you know, a couple weeks, 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? There's shit put in there to help it last that long. There's a reason, right? There's a reason why a pack of Oreo cookies, you can buy a pack and it can just stay there, I mean, even for longer, without going stale. And these are, you know, I mean, bags of potato chips, right? And these are things that we don't think about. And not that it's our fault, right? Because to be honest, like, I think we do a poor job educating ourselves, even when we're younger, right? Educating ourselves on food and like quality food, right? And processed food, whether you're looking at doing paleo or just any type of diet, whether it's keto, whether if it fits your macros, whether you're doing like the all meat diet, like the carnivore diet, you know, you always want to do as best as you can to avoid processed foods, okay? Because they're just, you know, they got a bunch of shit in them, a bunch of different chemicals. I mean, have you ever thought about how crazy it is to look at a bag of something and you look at the ingredients and it's shit that you can't pronounce? Don't you ever think, fuck, I'm putting that in my body? Like, yeah, it may taste good as shit. Listen, I love Oreos just as much as the next person. I really do. But if you go and look at all the ingredients and you think about it, like, fuck, I'm putting this in my body. And that's what the big problem is, especially again with the Western diet, is that a majority of the Western diet is made up of highly processed foods. And people are just putting that shit in their body every single day. So this is what we're talking about when we mean processed foods, right? So let's talk about now, you know, we're talking about putting that shit in our body. So what's the impact of that, right? And this is a big, you know, not necessarily advocating, and by the way, the whole purpose of this presentation is not to advocate for the paleo diet. It's just, you know, again, I think this is just going to be a bunch of different, you know, presentations I want to do on different types of, you know, diets, right, in this kind of series, if you will. So really, problems associated with the Western diet in general, like I said, can be resolved by doing other types of diets, right? is that with the Western diet, because it's made up of a highly carbohydrate, right? Which carbohydrates, by the way, in case you didn't know, just at the end of the day, converts into sugar, right? You ingest the carbohydrates, right? Breaks down to glucose, and glucose is sugar, right? So you have this high sugar, right? Which does lead to high insulin, produces the hormone insulin, okay? And you're eating these highly processed foods that's full of all this other shit, high fructose corn syrup, aspartame, you know, like that's like an artificial sweetener, right? And what it does to the body is it leads to a plethora of different problems, right? You know, high carbohydrate, high sugar, if you combine that with low physical activity, which most of us are doing, just because you go, and keep in mind, just because you go to the gym 1-2 hours a day, doesn't mean you're a super active person. If you're just sitting on your butt the rest of the time, your overall activity level is not super, it's not high. Moderate at best. That's a big mistake people make, especially when they're trying to do these calorie calculators. Is they always put their activity level at, like, you know, the highest it can be just because they go to the gym 1 or 2 hours every day, five days a week. No, right? You know, you got to think about, like, how active are you throughout the day? Are you getting at least 10,000, 15,000 steps a day? You know? So, with this kind of diet and the low activity level, what happens is all of that sugar, when it goes unused, right, it just converts into fat, right? Our body naturally has a certain threshold, if you will, of sugar, right? Stored glycogen that can be in the muscles, right? And then once you've tapped over that, it just spills over and converts to fat, right? So that's where you get your fat gain and your fat storage, right? Eating a very highly processed, high processed foods, high sugar, can lead to a lot of inflammation in the body, right? Swollen feet, swollen joints, right? So again, a lot of high inflammation. Excuse me. Digestive issues, right? Putting all this crap in the body, you know, a lot of this processed, highly processed food that has a bunch of chemicals in it. Our body wasn't meant to digest that. So there's no wonder people have, you know, acid reflux, you know, leaky gut syndrome. People end up being lactose or having a gluten intolerance. You know, you ever eat a food, right? And you didn't even eat a lot of it, but you eat a food and, like, your stomach gets all blown up and bloated, you know, or like you eat a certain food and all of a sudden, like, you got like a nagging, like, shoulder pain or lower back pain, you know, like a pre-existing injury, and it kind of just flares up. These are all, you know, between the digestive issues and inflammation, right? These are all things that can happen. And then obviously the high sugar, high insulin, you can lead to diabetes, the increase, you know, fat. You can get fat, right, stored, you know, clogging up your arteries, can lead to early heart attack, all types of heart disease, right? So not that I want to sit here and freak you out, I mean, but these are all kind of known things, and I mean, and really this is what I'm talking about, where a lot of this is starting to come to light here about a lot of the problems associated with the Western diet. So, you know, the big thing is I'll always push with you guys, anyone who's getting started out, focus on, don't really worry about how many calories you're eating right now. If you're just starting out, focus on quality food, i.e. non-processed food. Even if it's an 80-20, 80% you're eating clean, right? 20% is processed, you're doing so many steps, right, in the right direction. Okay? So next we have, so what is the actual modern paleo diet? What does it look like, right? So you got your basic proteins, your meat, right? Beef, pork, chicken, bison, turkey, eggs, fish, salmon, tuna, halibut, cod, fruit, you know, the fruits you see in a grocery store, grapes, berries, grapefruits, bananas, oranges, right? A lot of your typical stuff, fresh vegetables, cucumbers, tomatoes, avocados, squash, celery, broccoli, your fats, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, grass-fed butter, flaxseed oil, right? And then your nuts and seeds, almonds, Brazil nuts, seeds, walnuts, pecans, right? So these, I mean, to be honest with you, these are all things that you would find in a typical, like, good, healthy nutrition, right? I mean, these are all staples of my nutrition right now. And I don't follow a paleo diet, and I have tried paleo, by the way. But these are all great things to be incorporating in your daily nutrition, right? So even if you decide, hey, you know, I heard about that paleo, but I don't know if I'm going to try it, you should make sure that you're including these things in your nutrition, right? They should make up on a daily basis. You should be including these things, right? So this is all pretty typical. Oops. So now that we talked about what should be in, like what's part of a modern paleo diet. Now let's go ahead and talk about right now what are the no-nos, right? So obviously processed foods, like we talked about. None of your, and I kind of have them all X here, right? So none of your, you know, essentially no sugar, no artificial sugar, right? So none of your sodas, your sweeteners, prepackaged foods, right? None of that. None of your trans fats and vegetable oils, corn oil, soy oil, peanut oil, right? Grains, right? And for me, this is where I kind of get like grains, because then essentially we're eliminating rice, oatmeal, right? And that's where I like, and you'll get to this in the pros and cons, where I find it to be like a bit much, if you will, but no grains, right? Because again, it's really because it falls under the process. And if you're kind of getting back to the intent of this gatherer-hunter mindset, right? You wouldn't have been able to go out and find rice out in the world. You know what I mean? So the idea is that, you know, our bodies weren't meant to digest grain, right? So, but like I said, anyways, just talking about the, you know, about the modern paleo diet, and then dairy, right? Milk, cheese, cream, yogurt, right? Again, the idea that dairy is, once again, it is a processed food, right? Processed in the sense of, let's say milk, for example. You know, you have the cow, milk comes out of the cow, and then goes through a process to become the milk that you drink on a daily basis when you go and pick it up out of the carton, out of the grocery store. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I myself, I'll be honest, dairy, like, I have some issues with digesting dairy. Like, when I'm really trying to lean out and cut, I won't do a lot of dairy. I mean, I don't really do a lot of dairy anyways. I do Greek yogurt. But I really don't do a lot of dairy generally, because I do notice that it kind of gives me some stomach issues, right? So it kind of tells me, all right, maybe there is some sense into understanding why, you know, you're not supposed to include dairy. But again, really kind of falls under its process, right? You wouldn't find it out in the environment. And then legumes, chickpeas, lentils, beans, peanuts, right? I mean, so again, even for me, I don't understand necessarily myself why what's the issue with chickpeas or with peanuts, right? I guess again, because if there's some level of modification, right?
Daddy, I'm gonna go inside now.
Okay, if you're gonna go inside. But that's the general gist, guys, of your modern paleo diet no-nos, right? So that's why those are the things you don't want to include. Like I said, I'm all for some of your like really bad processed foods, and I get some of the newer studies too that even come out on like the vegetable oils, like the soy oil, you know, and I get like some of the highly processed grains, you know, just like, you know, when you're seeing, because sometimes you'll see like a cereal or like a cracker, something highly processed, and they're trying to say, oh, look at all the different types of grains you get and it's super healthy for you. Yeah, some of that I get, like, okay, yeah, you shouldn't be putting that in your body. But like oatmeal, brown rice, you know, I'm not really against that. I mean, legumes, some people argue sweet potato being a legume. You know, I think that's a bit much too, if you ask me. And like dairy, I mean, I think, especially for your calcium, unless you're gonna like supplement, but otherwise, like, yeah, I mean, I don't understand why, you know, dairy is such a big deal, if you will. I just feel like in the grains, dairy, and legumes section, there could be some where like, yes, it's processed, but it's not so overtly processed that maybe there's some good health benefits that maybe you don't gotta have it be part of your staple diet every single day, but maybe once a week you're including these, or every other day, you know, in moderation. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about some of the pros and cons. Some of the pros and cons here, right, with the modern paleo diet. RatayuGaming, what's up, dude? Staying in good health? I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. Right now I'm doing, I decided as part of my, like, you know, fitness streams, I'm going to spend the first like 45 minutes going over like a topic, if you will, right? So that way it's not just, you know, watching me work out. So we'll get through that, and then we'll get to the workout. So today we've been covering the paleo diet. So I'm actually getting into the pros and cons right now. I like it, smart move. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. So learn and burn. I love that. Learn and burn. Oh man, dude, I might have to steal that tagline, bro. Maybe that's what I end up calling these. Today's learn and burn, right? Because we're, at least for me, I'm trying to educate while I'm on the treadmill getting some steps in. You know, go ahead. All right, dude. I might steal that. I love that. So with the modern paleo diet, pros and cons here, right? So, and the next two slides are on the pros and cons. So, okay, so let's start with the first row here, right? So, pros, nutrient dense, right? So meaning that generally when you're following the types of foods that are in a paleo diet, right, you're really talking about eating foods in their most natural form. Not highly processed, not mixed with a bunch of shit. Because you have to remember, see what happens is that when you take, say something like even broccoli. Let's say you take broccoli. But did you know that by the time you cook the broccoli, even put it up in some oil and you cook the broccoli, by the time the broccoli reaches your plate, it's literally lost 80, close to 90% of its nutritional value? Crazy, right? Crazy. And so that's the, you know, so that's the idea here, is that when you're eating a paleo diet, you know, there's no need. Damn, no, it's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, and that really goes with a lot of your natural foods, right? Any food, as soon as you start messing with it, right, it starts losing its nutritional value. right? That's why it's always best, again, and that's the whole idea behind the paleo diet, is to get food, you know, even your meats. That's why you see the big thing on, you know, 100% grass-fed and wild-caught fish. Because the whole idea is that nothing's been tampered or messed with it to fuck with this nutritional value, right? So when you're eating that, you're getting, you know, there really is no need to have to take some type of vitamin supplement, right? Because you're getting a lot of good solid micronutrients, right? Now, a con, right, is that normally, as we most know, eating really healthy, super organic, buying that wild caught fish, buying that grass-fed, you know, beef, it's expensive. It's super expensive, right? I mean, even myself, like, and I'm a healthy guy, right? I can't afford to go and get grass-fed beef all the time, organic chicken, you know, organic berries and fruits, right? And when I do, I give that to the kids. But like, it's just not, you know, I'm not a big fish eater. Yeah, I mean, but just whatever it is, to get it in its purest form, and it's fucked up, right? You would think, like, why should it be more expensive to get something that's less processed? You had to do more work, theoretically, to make it. But I guess something highly processed like Oreos, for example, right? Well, that shit's just made in a fucking lab, and they can just mass produce that shit, right? But it's funny how now, for all you know, the fucked up thing is they probably got to do more work now, you know, to fucking make it more natural, right? Because it's harder for them to keep and produce. Exactly. Versus the cheaper shit. Exactly. So that's a con, is that it's more expensive, right? Now, what I would say to that is, like, you know, don't let that deter you. Just get what you're able to get. It's, even if you're able to incorporate a little bit of it, it's better than not incorporating it at all. You know what I'm saying? Most farmers are forced to use the GMO seeds. Bullshit. Yeah. And that's why you're even seeing some farmers that are coming out where they're producing the more natural stuff, and I've been seeing it on Instagram. You know, you're seeing that, like, and I was talking about that earlier. I mean, this is starting to trend where it's starting to become more popular. People are having more conversations, especially in the meat industry, right? That's almost like one of the worst offenders, right? But I know it's crazy, man. I mean, it's crazy. You see these fucking cows, these fucking chickens that are fucking massive, and you're like, what the fuck? This isn't natural. You know, it's crazy to think about. So obviously, you know, leading to another pro, the paleo diet, when you're eating a diet with no additives, preservatives, chemicals, right? That's great for the body. Keeps you feeling nice and clean, right? And that kind of really also kind of leads to the anti-inflammatory benefits, right? You don't got a lot of highly processed shit in your body, you know, not causing those digestive issues, not putting you in an inflamed state. That's great. Now, on the other end, right? Flipping over a couple of the cons, some people describe that it's a bit restrictive, right? You are limited to only certain numbers of foods, and people don't like that, right? I mean, even I myself, you know, I don't like super restrictive diets that eliminate stuff. And getting back to the previous slide, right, I told you some of the things that paleo eliminates, like grains, which would be even brown rice, steel-cut oatmeal, right? I don't think that those should necessarily not be included. I mean, I think in moderation, those things are fine, right? So some people find it to be a bit restrictive. And then also the preparation time. Obviously, going out and getting your prepackaged meal and just popping it in the oven versus, imagine if you got your fresh piece of meat and you had to season the meat and cut it up and cook it, and you got to do your vegetables, get your vegetables out and prepare them and cook it. Obviously, you know, it's going to take longer to prepare your own food, right? So some people view that as a con. I mean, again, I think if you're trying to, flip the script, start eating healthy, you just have to accept that it's going to take more time to prepare your own food. But I think the benefits far outweigh the cons of that. Longer but usually better. Hell yeah, a lot of times better. Exactly. All right, flipping back over to the pros, right? Healthy lipid profile. So what do we mean by that? We mean that with the paleo diet, you're getting a lot of good, healthy fats, right? It's promoting you wanting to get a lot of good, healthy fats, either from the meat consumption, right? Or things like, again, your olive oil, avocado oil, your nuts, your seeds, right? And so having a good lipid profile is going to mean you're going to have a great level of cholesterol in your triglycerides, right? Which is ultimately going to result in a lower risk of heart disease, right? You're not going to worry about. So really, what we're talking about here, one of the big things that comes to mind is when you're eating a lot of highly processed, a lot of bad fat, you end up clogging up your arteries, right? Clogging up your arteries is one of the things that can lead to a heart attack, heart disease. So these are all things that we want to stay the fuck away from. Did you and your wife lose a lot of weight, or just you? Both of us did. We did it together, actually, which was great because we could lean on one another. It's funny because she started before I did, and I wasn't into it yet. And but then yeah, we both hopped on the train and we did it together. It was great. It was awesome. It was great having, again, that partner, to rely on, to push one another, because there's going to be days where you don't feel like doing it, and you want that partner to be like, fuck you, we are going to do it, Yeah, it was great. It really was. And then, so the next, like weight loss due to limited food choice. Generally speaking, if I'm going to restrict the kind of foods you can eat, in addition to you having to spend time to prepare them, generally you're probably going to eat less calories, which is going to result in weight loss. Now the funny thing, the opposite, a critique of the paleo diet, need that motivation sometimes. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Dude, absolutely. It's critical. It's actually critical. Whether it's a spouse, wife, or a wife as a spouse, whether your spouse, another family member, like a sibling, close friend, yeah, dude, you need it. Absolutely. But so one of the funny things is that some people actually complain on the paleo diet, it's actually easy to overeat and gain weight, because a lot of people get on paleo and then people are like, oh my God, I can eat all the nuts in the world, right? So obviously something like nuts, right, is very calorically dense, meaning, what does that mean? That means like a quarter cup of nuts is like 200 freaking calories, right? So if you just gorge yourself on thinking, ooh, I can drizzle all the olive oil I want all over my salad, or I can crush all the nut butter, I want, then you could quickly find yourself crushing like 3,000 calories, and you're like, fuck, I'm getting fat. Why am I getting fat on paleo, right? So, and that is something, if you're not used to like what different, and this is why also like I'm such a huge advocate of people at least spending some period logging their food, so that they understand the different kinds of foods and their nutritional value. Calories, what's a high carbohydrate food, a high protein food, a high fat food, so people can understand. Because how many times people make the mistake, say just peanut butter. Oh, I just put, 3 spoons of peanut butter in this, and it's like these globs. It's like fucking 3 tablespoons worth, easily close to like 1,000 calories in peanut butter. And they just don't even think about that stuff, And then the last con is, this is really more if you're an athlete. And I'll be honest, I experienced this myself. Especially when I was if you're doing any type of physical, like high like intensity activity, like CrossFit, for example. Even though I know a lot of people push paleo and CrossFit together, but I just don't know how they're fucking doing it, to be real with you. But like you just get a lot of low energy, because at the end of the day, your body's preferred energy source, right? Most efficient, in my opinion, is carbohydrates. It is sugar, right? There's a reason why you eat a banana and boom, you get a spike, or you eat a piece of chocolate, boom, you get a spike and you're go, go, go. You know what I'm saying? So really that can be another big thing, you know, is the low energy, right? Because generally speaking, your carbohydrate consumption is going to be lower. Because you have to remember, the idea of the paleo diet, even though fruit's allowed, the general idea is that you're supposed to be eating like the caveman, right? Where a majority of your diet is meats, right? Followed by, like meats and fish, followed by your fats, right? Being your olive oil, nuts, seeds, right? And then at the very top two is going to be like fruit, your fruit and vegetables, right? Now obviously they prefer you to do vegetables, but fruit is a very minimal amount, because again the whole idea is that fruit wasn't around all year round, right? And definitely not all kinds of fruit were around, right? You could live in an area where oranges just aren't native, right? But we can get all kinds of fucking fruit that we want all the time. So anyways, so generally you're gonna have a lower carbohydrate intake, right? So as we continue here to wrap up our pros and cons, right? So flipping over here, right? The paleo diet is rich in potassium, right? Eating a lot of fruit and vegetables increase your potassium levels, right? And when we say eating a lot of fruit and vegetables, we just mean in comparison to the Western diet that generally has a low intake of fresh fruit and vegetables, right? Increases your potassium levels, right? Which is great for maintaining healthy blood pressure and great kidney and muscle function, right? Opposite con, again, because you can't have the dairy. A lot of people, especially in the Western society, they get their calcium from milk, cheese, and yogurt, right? And so those who follow a very strict paleo diet, they could find themselves, not having an adequate amount of calcium. Now, you could counter that and say, well, you could take some type of calcium supplement, right? Or something along those lines. But generally, like if you're not, then you could, do I think, I don't want to say it's a bit of a stretch, but do I think, yeah, that could happen, and therefore low bone and tooth density, yeah. But flipping back over to the pros, high protein content, right? I told you a majority of the paleo diet is high protein. So proteins, right, are essential. I mean, proteins do so much for you, right? They're essential for growth and development of your skin, muscles, bone, your cartilage, right? Consuming adequate amounts of lean protein, right, contribute to a great healthy body composition and lower insulin response, right? Protein and carbs is what balance one another out, if you didn't know that actually. But yeah, protein is great. It really is, right? Flipping to the con, the elimination of whole grains, right, could mean a decrease. Didn't know that. Oh yeah. It's what they help balance one another out. Yep. And then fats, right? Fats produce the hormone leptin, and leptin is the hormone that tells your body that you're full. So that's why it's a good idea. It's a good idea to have a balance of all these macronutrients, right? That's why I'm never really a super huge fan of a diet that completely eliminates one macronutrient out of the picture, like the carnivore diet, for example, right? Which I'll cover that too. I mean, I plan on doing all these. I plan on doing all of them. So the whole grains, right? If you all of a sudden eliminate whole grains, you could be decreasing your intake of fiber, right? Which is beneficial to gut health. Now again, you can argue fiber supplements and things of that nature. And like I said, personally speaking, I still consume whole grains. Steel cut oatmeal, brown rice, you know, now do I think like if you're like, man, you're eating cereal and you're like, yeah, I'm getting my whole grains. I think there are more less processed foods out there like steel cut oatmeal and brown rice where you can be getting your fiber intake from. You know what I'm saying? So, but again, that's just on, you know, that's just on me. That's where like I agree with this as being a, you know, a con. I think you just need to, you know, in whole grains, pick the less processed ones. And then flipping back over to the last pro, and this is a huge pro. This is probably like the #1 fucking pro in my opinion of wanting to take on the paleo diet, and that's the elimination of processed foods, right? This diet is comprised of whole foods, right? We talked about it. Your meats, fish, fruit, vegetables, right? Your fats, nuts, seeds, okay? I mean, this is whole foods, right? This is stuff that less processed food for all food. That's right. Exactly. So you got less salt, less sugar, less bullshit like high fructose corn syrup, like aspartame, and all these other fucking ingredients that I don't even know how to fucking pronounce. Processed food has messed up my stomach. Yeah, I'm telling you, that's one of the big things, right? And it's so crazy because I've gone so long, right, with eliminating, you know, a lot of that out of my diet, that anytime I do, like I have cheat days, right? If you follow my Instagram, you see some of the food that I eat on my cheat days sometimes. And trust me, because my body's gotten so trained, it's crazy. And as I've gotten older, I keep asking myself, man, why do I do this? Because I'm realizing it. You realize you have a physical reaction to eating this highly processed food. All the ingredients that just process your stomach. Yeah. Right, so, you know, eating that less salt, that less sugar, right, that obviously is improving your blood sugar levels and blood pressure, right, reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes, right, so I mean, again, this is the #1, right, and this isn't, you can do keto, you can do if it fits your macros and still eliminate processed food. Now, because paleo is so restrictive, it makes you eliminate processed food. You know what I'm saying? So, but like that is like literally the #1. Eat something your body rejects it immediately. Yes. I'm telling, dude, over the past like few years, I have thrown up more, not because I got super drunk, but because I had a night of crushing something like fried chicken wings, and literally that night I threw up because my stomach just couldn't handle eating fucking fried chicken wings. I'm telling you, like no joke. It's the truth. It's really wild. It's so crazy. It really is. You know, in the last con, the diet does not allow the consumption of legumes, which are highly beneficial to gut health and rich in magnesium, selenium, and magnesium. Manganese. God, I always get tripped up on those because it's not. You read it, you think, and you want to say magnesium right away. So, and again, this is also where I kind of agree. Consumptions of legumes, I think again within a category. Like some people argue, like potatoes and sweet potatoes are legumes, and I think sweet potatoes are great for you. So that's where I also like. I feel like in both the dairy, the grains, and the legumes, I understand why they're eliminated. They're eliminated as far as the paleo diet because they're processed food, right? That's because you like, again, I gave the examples earlier of milk. Milk comes out of a cow, and then it has to go through some sort of process. It gets bottled and packaged, and boom, right? Like when we drink the milk out of the carton, it is not the milk that fucking came directly out of the cow. Some shit has happened to it before we consume it. You know what I mean? In grains, I get it. We gave the example of like brown rice, right? That one, I can't remember. It's the Hulk. There's like three things I know with white rice that get stripped out, but we know with brown rice, like one of the things gets stripped out, right? So I understand it's processed. LOL. out of the thing. Out of the udder. Milk almost kills me. Well, same. Yeah, I really don't do a lot of milk. When it comes to dairy, I do Greek yogurt. Like the probiotics to get some of the like good bacteria, if you will. So again, and like the legumes, I get because some of them are like processed, you know. But I do think like sweet potatoes, I just feel like in each of those areas, whole grains, dairy, and legumes, there are less processed versions in each of those areas that I think, you know, it's good in moderation to include those. I think some of the health benefits outweigh the fact that it's processed. You know what I'm saying? Like your whole grains, if you're fucking eating brown rice, okay, you're getting some more nutritional value than if you're fucking eating Raisin Bran. You know what I'm saying? I think there's two extremes in that category that it's almost unfair to like nix brown rice because Raisin Bran is in that category. You know what I'm saying? Not that I have anything against Raisin Bran, but you get what I'm saying here. So yeah, I mean, so these are the general pros and cons, guys, around the paleo diet. I mean, next we get the last segment is questions. We're pushing 56 minutes. I timed this to be about 45 minutes to an hour. You know, if there's no questions, I think what I'll talk about, you know, is one, speaking of my experience doing paleo, right in my CrossFit phase, because paleo was the big kind of diet being pushed around with CrossFit. I tried it, and I would say the biggest con for me was that the low energy level. Now, did it lean me out? Oh, abso-fucking-lutely. Like, did it lean me out? Yes, but I feel like I had no energy. I was so lethargic, especially doing something like CrossFit, high intensity, like, you know, and doing that like 4 or 5 times a week. And maybe like I wasn't really measuring my calories back then. So I don't know if maybe if I did paleo, but I made sure I was consuming enough calories, that maybe it still wouldn't have been as bad. But I still just don't think, like, I know my body feels better when I'm getting like the big carbohydrate pre and post workout. I feel like I'm better for my workout and I feel better recovered after my workout. So that would probably be like my only thing with paleo when I was super strict, was like the carbohydrate. I mean, I did it for about 2 months, and then afterwards, like, yeah, I looked real lean, but I was so tired. I mean, I was just dragging ass through workouts. What's the best thing to start doing to get rid of the gut? I would say the number one thing you can do to start getting rid of the gut, well, 2 things. Right, exactly. Diet and exercise. But let me elaborate a bit more on that, right? So your number one, of course, is going to be your nutrition. Now more than that, right, it's really focusing on the quality of food that you're eating, bro. You know what I'm saying? And paleo, to be honest, even in my, like, if I had to provide, okay, what is one diet like that I was like, okay, I'm not going to have time, or they don't have time to literally, like, you know, find out what every single food has, right? I probably would recommend something for paleo, like something like paleo, like if you got like some fat to lose, right? Because it's high vegetables, high protein, moderate amounts of fat. You're getting a little fruit, right? And you're eliminating that processed food. That right there is going to immediately start flushing everything out, right? But if you didn't want to stick to something like paleo, again, I would focus on quality. Like, bro, when I started losing weight, can't remember if I told you this already, but when I started losing weight, right, all I did was I cut out all processed food. I stopped eating McDonald's, Chipotle, Subway. I don't give a fuck how healthy, you know, it says it is for you. I stopped eating it. You know what I started eating? And I wasn't measuring food or anything. I started doing a bowl of oatmeal with like a handful of blueberries, right? And maybe I put some nuts in there, right? And like a few eggs. That would be breakfast. Lunch would be a piece of cooked chicken with a cup of brown rice and loaded with vegetables, steamed vegetables. No shit in it, steamed vegetables. And then dinner, same thing. Chicken or maybe like a piece of steak, right? With like a sweet potato and then vegetables. And I drank nothing but water. And then for snacks, I would have maybe like a handful of nuts, an avocado, maybe an apple and some peanut butter. And that's literally all I ate. That's all I did, bro. Bro, for 18 months. That's all I ate, bro. That's all I ate. And the weight was just fucking falling off. Because you have to remember, I'm not sure, I might just want to die then. Yeah, I mean, dude, like, but you have to remember, dude, it's like, dude, that's crazy, I know, I need flavor. I hear you, dude. I hear you. But you have to imagine, bro, 18 months is nothing in the span of your fucking life. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, don't, like, you know, like now, like, yeah, do I season my food and get some flavor and whatever? But dude, I'm telling you, at least for me, I was, you know, I came to the real, like, dude, like, time flies. And you know this, right? You know this, time fucking flies. So like, dude, 18 months is nothing. 2 years is nothing. You can dramatically change your life. And then look, dude, once you got what you wanting to do, then okay, you can slowly start incorporating the stuff back. And that's what I do. You know what I mean? Now obviously, like, I mean, I was just, you know, I was fucking 300 pounds, you know, couldn't, like, walking up and down the stairs, I was getting out of breath. You know, I had an extreme situation, and just me, like, I'm cold turkey. And I know some people can't do that and just slowly do a gradual start incorporating more better quality foods. Yeah, I'm not overweight, just got the dad bod going. Yeah, I feel you, yeah. So I would say that on the nutrition side, just focus on less processed food, better quality food. Also known as a father figure, as like, oh man, that's right. And then on the exercise, you know, frame, I mean, dude, walk. If anything, fucking walk. Like, don't worry about, like, cause remember I told, like, a lot of people get so caught up in like, man, I gotta spend 2 or 3 hours in the gym. You don't. Just be more active, right? Just because you spend 2 hours in the gym doesn't mean you're a super active person. Fucking move around. Even though I get in the gym, I still do 10 to 15,000 steps a day. Get in there, get the fuck up and start moving around. People, we gotta move around. We were meant to move around. That will help lean you out. Like if you just start doing that, just imagine if you were walking 10,000 steps a day, that would just boost your overall activity level through the door, through the fucking roof, man. It really would. So that's why, like, I don't want, sometimes people get scared when they're saying, like, go to the gym. Like, well, what do I do at the gym? What exercises do I do? And there's, you know, high intensity, there's blah, 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 blah. Dude, even myself, when I got started, it was just walking, bro. Yeah, I'm at 4 or 5K steps a day. Bro, 10K steps at minimum every day. Every day. Like, get up and go walk. Get up and go walk 20 minutes at a time. People are allowed to go out and have a 10, 15 minute smoke break. You need to go have a 10, 15 minute walk break. But I work in the office. You know, renegade gamers, I work in the office too, bro. Get up and take your ass outside and go take some laps around the building, bro. I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you. Unless you're like telling me you're really in a situation, shit, I don't take breaks. Bro, you need to. It's for your health. It's for your health. Unless you're in a situation where you're like, yo, my ass literally has to be glued in my seat for the whole fucking 8 hours. Dude, you got a lunch break. And if you're like, man, I can't take a lunch break, and that's just really life, then yeah, you better get up a half an hour early so you can go walk in the morning, and then you better go walk for an hour in the evening, hang out with the kids, you know, everyone on a big family walk. Or dude, even walk around the house. Dude, there'll be sometimes even when it's raining outside, bro, I'm just walking around the house back and forth to get my steps. Just get caught up in work. I know you gotta make it a priority, bro. I set timers in my phone. I set motherfucking timers in my phone. Like, get up and walk. I swear to God I do. I swear, dude. I truly do. I set timers in my phone that will go off to tell me to go start walking. I really do, dude. Whatever it takes, man. Like, whatever it takes. But, dude, I promise you. Yeah, dude, 4,000 or 5,000 steps is nothing, dude. You got 10K minimum. Before you even take your ass out into the gym, just get moving around, bro. At least 8,000 steps. 8,000 steps. That's what I would do. So those would be my two things, man. Try to incorporate less processed food. I mean, I don't know what your diet's like right now, but less processed food, and then just start moving. And between those two things, you will start moving in the right direction. You get what I'm saying? Hopefully all that makes sense. All right, consider it done. That's what I like to hear, man. Because you know what you don't want, bro? I heard this quote the other day. I can't remember who I heard it from. But it was like, if you wanna stop starting over, you gotta stop giving up. And I was like, damn, like that really hit me. How many times in my life, whether with fitness or with, you know, other, even streaming, where like things weren't working out the way I wanted and I gave up and I stopped. And then I like started again. And you always ask yourself that question, man, I wonder, like 6 months go by, a year goes by, damn, I wonder if I had stuck it out for the past 6 months or year, where would I be right now? You know what I'm saying? How, like this thing, dude, that really mind fucked me. It truly did. It mind fucked me. I was like, damn, that's, because I've had that moment all the time where I'm like, fuck. Like, and really more recently, it's been with streaming, where like, okay, like this time around, like I'm like, all right, dude, focus on creating value and enjoy the process. When I first started streaming, dude, you get so caught up in, I gotta get my followers, and you get discouraged. Why the fuck do I don't have 100 viewers? Blah, 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 blah. And why aren't people jumping all over my Instagram and da, 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 da. And I just realized, like, dude, you gotta enjoy the process. Like, who the fuck are you that people are gonna start blowing you up just when you get started? You know what I'm saying? So that's just losing weight is harder. Streaming is rough. Losing weight is harder. I mean, yeah, I mean, dude, losing weight, because losing weight, dude, is like, there's so many, society is not conducive to losing weight, right? Isn't that fucked up? But it's so true. Society is not conducive to losing weight. A lot of our activities are around drinking, going out to eat, right? How often do you hear people are like, yo, you want to go run with me? Hey, I'm about to go run a few miles. You want to come? Hey, I'm going to the gym. You want to come? No, that's not like the typical hangout thing. You know what I'm saying? Agree. Fast food on every fucking corner. You know what I mean? Exactly. That's what it is. That's honestly what it is. LOL, bro. Let's go for a jog. Nah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Right? Like that's just not how it goes. You know what I mean? Even as I started getting more into my lifestyle, and some of my old friends would be like, yo, why don't you come over, we'll hit the gym? And I'd be like, nah, bro, I'm good. You know what I mean? No one wants to do that. No one so society is just not conducive to it. But anyways, that just like, that quote really like stuck with me. And I was like, fuck, you know, like it's so true. We give up so easily in the short term because it's hard. Because we don't, you know, because we haven't done it before and we're not seeing the results immediately. And, you know, and just realizing that, dude, time flies. And so, like, it really is true. If you truly do want to stop starting over, stop giving up, you know, give yourself any true change, right? You got to start thinking about What am I going to be able to achieve 3 to 5 years from now? I mean, Renegade, if you would have asked me in 2012, would I have fucking 6-pack abs right now? No. I would have been like, no way. I would have been like, yeah, maybe I can lose weight, but 6-pack abs? Like a ripped bod? No way, dude. No way. I would have been like, you're fucking lying to me. That's not possible. You know what I'm saying? So like, you just gotta like stick with it. You gotta think about, it's sometimes it's hard for you to think about what you can achieve in 3, 5 years, 10 years. You know what I mean? Start thinking about things in terms of that, and just put your head down, enjoy the process and grind. And before you know it, dude, 3 years flies by, 5 years flies by, and then you're like, shit. Then motherfuckers are asking you, dude, what did you do? How did you do it? And they're expecting some complicated answer. And it's not complicated, right? It's simple. It's just patience and consistency. You know what I'm saying? You know what you need to do, Renegade. You know what you need to do. You know that I need to start eating healthy. I need to start moving around more. You know that. You already know it, bro. It's just consistency every day and just being patient. And that's what it is, my man. That's what it is, bro. It's that motivation. It's that motivation. You just got to connect, man. You just got to, and again, for me, it was more drastic, but you just got to connect with that. Why am I doing this? You know, like that's another thing I was saying, man. We got to start changing the conversation, right? Break that laziness, not giving up. But you got to start changing the conversation, right? Like health and fitness is not about having a 6-pack. It's not about having, amazing biceps, right? Fitness and health, it's gotta be about, I want to be able to wipe my ass when I'm 80. I don't want to be at risk for a heart attack in my 50s or 60s. You know what I mean? I want to be able to play around with my grandkids. You know what I'm saying? It's about living longer and being healthy. That's what it is, man. It's really not like, now obviously like living a healthy and fit lifestyle, one of the benefits that happen is you generally look good naked, right? Right? Like I said, I told you, if you were to ask me would I get abs, I'd be like, hell no. But yeah, one of the benefits of I've just been living a healthy and fit lifestyle is you got a lower body fat percentage and your muscles are more pronounced, right? But that's never been the goal. The goal is just to live a fit and healthy life. And so now, as I'm sitting here in my 30s, I'm thinking about when I'm freaking 50, 60, right? I'm still able, like when my kid's 20 and he wants to shoot hoops, I'm able to go shoot hoops with my kid. I'm not like, oh man, like I can't move, Or when my kid has a kid and I'm like 60, 70, I'm able to pick my grandkid up. I'm not, with the walker or with the whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so like when you start thinking about that, when that becomes the goal, then dude, you're unstoppable. When that becomes the goal, you're unstoppable. So let's flip back here. So guys, so that was our skit on our presentation, if you will, on the paleo diet. Like I said, this was something new that I wanted to start doing in an attempt to bring more value to you guys.